Hello and welcome back to Girls on Deck. I'm Kayla Burge, joined by my lovely co-host, Kellie Campbell. We have such an exciting show for you all today. We're joined by Jeff Laux to discuss the AFC and NFC Championship games. And I know it's been a long time, but we are finally talking MLB again with guest Kayla Lewis. Girls on Deck starts now.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
After one of the most exciting postseasons, it has come down to the two last teams, the Cincinnati Bengals and Los Angeles Rams. They'll meet at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles for the 2022 Super Bowl, the second time ever that a team has played at home in the Super Bowl. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's welcome Jeff Laux to talk about the AFC and NFC Championship games. Jeff, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I get to change out my vocabulary from Bongles to Bengals. There's a lot of great things happening today.
Yeah, it's been an exciting one. So let's start with the AFC Championship game. Burrow versus Mahomes in yet another amazing 2022 postseason game. Kansas City started off strong in the first half with Mahomes completing a 10-yard touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill just minutes into the game. From there, it seemed like it was their game to win. Mahomes was electric, completing passes to Kelcie and Hardman for a total of 3 touchdowns. But things started to change in the last minute before halftime when Joe Burrow threw a 41-yard pass to Samaje Perine for the touchdown. The Chiefs seemed to fall off right after that. Mahomes made uncharacteristic errors and the entire offense seemed to have no answer for the Bengals defense, who also did not allow a single Chiefs touchdown in the second half. The Bengals were on fire and the game ended in yet another postseason field goal and went into overtime. After a pretty much game-ending interception thrown by Mahomes, the Bengals had the ball and Evan McPherson won the game for Cincinnati. Again. So now we'll see the Bengals in the Super Bowl for the first time since the 1988 season. But before we talk about the winner of this game, I want to know what happened to the Chiefs, Jeff.
I mean, just heading into halftime with their heads hanging low after, a blown opportunity. Tyreek Hill obviously frustrated, taking off his helmet. You could see just Patrick Mahomes said in his interview he wanted one final play on that ending half just so he can go home with, or come back into the locker room with 3 points or with 7 points. So when they lost that opportunity and the Bengals came out, throwing everyone at Patrick Mahomes, he ended up getting sacked 4 times this game, more than Joe Burrow. And that's a criticism of the Bengals. Typically every game is that they're letting Joe Burrow get hit. Like last game, he was getting slaughtered. But now you see they actually live up to what everyone's saying, like, hey, you need to play better. The offensive lineman actually showed up for Joe Burrow today, and the Chiefs didn't. Patrick Mahomes was running around the backfield like a chicken with his head cut off. It was like, what's going on?
Right. That was what was surprising to me. I mean, I wanted the Bengals to win going into it. I want them to win the whole thing. I have money on it. But I thought it would be the Chiefs personally, and I was really shocked to see very uncharacteristic errors made by Mahomes. So what do you think was happening to him, Jeff?
I honestly don't know, but what I saw in the second half is that they put 6 personnel in the backfield, and it was causing 6 to 8 personnel in the backfield. It was causing Mahomes, to throw multiple interceptions, to throw incompletions. In the first half, they used 20% 8 personnel. Then they moved into 55-60% range in the second half, and that's what proved Mahomes, to start throwing those interceptions and start making those critical mistakes that everyone was talking about when he came out of Texas Tech.
Maybe he just didn't want to get criticized for his wife spraying champagne over the entire lower bowl again, or his brother making a TikTok in the box again. I don't know. Maybe he was just avoiding that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think when I went to Twitter, it was, congrats, the Bengals won, first time since 1988, blah, blah, blah. And then it was, thank God Jackson Mahomes and Brittany will not be in the Super Bowl. Because I think they probably are the most hated family in all of sports if we really were to dive into that.
They just do annoying things. I'm sure they're great people, but annoying things, annoying extra. Why are you spraying champagne over a bunch of people that don't have as much money as you? Like, it's cold outside. I don't know.
Right, but we won't have to worry about that. The Bengals won, Chiefs are out. First time we won't see them in a Super Bowl in 2 years. I'm excited. I love when the underdogs get in. So, Kelly, I want to ask you, what went right for the Bengals? You know, in the beginning, it seemed like it was going to be Kansas City's to win, like I said earlier. So what lit up in them?
What went right was them drafting Joe Burrow. That was the key to it. We all laughed when he got drafted by the Bengals. And, of course, he just laughed right back at us. And look at him now. He's birthing in the Super Bowl since 10 years prior to when I was even born. I wasn't even a thought yet. That's the craziest thing to me. But I think, honestly, like you were saying, that offensive line is so important. So important. Your entire quarterback's performance relies on your offensive line. And I think because they were able to do what they were able to do for Joe this game, that's what made the difference. That's what was making Patrick Mahomes slip up. Because they were performing so well offensively, I think maybe it got in his head a little bit and he was like, okay, this is the Joe Burrow everybody's been talking about since he got out of college, since he was able to win the Natty. And I'm so excited for him. I'm pulling for the Bengals now just because of the Joe Burrow story. Like, how great of a cherry on top would this be? And he's still so young.
Right. How can you not root for him when in his first season, he was out for most of it with a knee injury and came back the next season, is now going to the Super Bowl. It's an absolute Cinderella story, and it's an amazing one to watch. And like you said about the offensive line, that was the only thing that probably would have held them back, and they pulled it together, and they completely got under Kansas City's skin. Jeff, what did you think of the Bengals?
Honestly, the unspoken hero here is Joe Mixon. He was moving the pile. The offensive line was, opening holes, and that man was taking off. He was taking flight. And everyone's talking about Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and all of his electric wide receivers, his tight end Uzomah, but no one's really giving the credit to Joe Mixon and what he's done for the culture there for the Bengals over the past 3 years. He's turned that franchise into a competitor, and they don't even have an indoor practice facility. Like, that's how insane me thinking the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl really is. This was the least likely competition I thought would have really happened. I didn't think the Bengals really had the defense to make it this way, but they played with a lot of motivation. They're like the hot team right now. They have the hot hand. So we got to see when they go up against that D-line of the Rams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be an exciting Super Bowl to watch. But before we move on to the NFC, I just want to mention quickly that both times the Bengals played the Chiefs this season, they were down by 11 plus points and still came out on top each game. So super impressive win for the Bengals. But Kelly, let's move on to the NFC Championship.
Okay, so the two California teams faced off in a neck-and-neck game. The Rams were up early with a 16-yard touchdown pass from Stafford to Cooper Kupp. The momentum seemed to slow down, though, after Stafford threw an interception later in the first quarter. San Francisco was able to lead by 3 points just before the half. Garoppolo completed a pass to George Kittle, putting the 49ers up by 10 in the third quarter. It wasn't until the final quarter of the game that we saw the Rams finally start to shine. Another Cooper Kupp touchdown closed the gap of the score, making it a 3-point game at the top of the fourth. Then a 40-yard field goal by Matt Gay tied the game with just minutes to spare. It all seemed to fall apart for San Francisco after that. Another Matt Gay field goal would put the Rams up with just a minute left. What sealed the deal for the Rams was a Garoppolo pass intended for JaMychal Hasty being intercepted by Rams linebacker Trayvon Howard. The Rams will now have a chance to lift the Lombardi in front of a hometown crowd. Again, for the second time after Tampa won it last year in front of their hometown. Jeff, what did you think of the Rams last night? Do you think they're going to get that same opportunity?
It's impressive. They're not going to have the same opportunity because they're not playing Jimmy G again. They're playing Mr. Joe Shiesty Burrow. That man is a different beast than Jimmy G. And I feel for all my 49ers fans last night. It was frustrating to watch. You had it right there.
49ers fans exist?
No, they took
know
over LA. Did you not see the videos? There was literally like 75% San Francisco fans.
Were they not paid actors? I've never met one in person.
They're the only ones that could afford those $500+ seats of the game last night. So.
You're not wrong. I just saw my coworker and he was screaming out in the parking lot after work about Jimmy Garoppolo. The one thing that all the fans are screaming about on the internet, Jimmy Garoppolo. His jersey's being burned all over. It's seeming like a terrible divorce for them because they're about to release the great weapon of all, Mr. Trey Lance.
Yeah, Garoppolo and the 49ers as a whole have been on that redemption tour since they lost to the Chiefs not too long ago, and it just seems like they keep coming up short. So do you think this is a Garoppolo problem, or there's a bigger picture to the story?
I really believe it's a Garoppolo problem. Deebo Samuel's a ridiculous weapon. They have a great running back field, even though half of them are injured. I honestly believe that their defense was the best defense left in the playoffs at this point. You know, even with a star-studded LA Rams defense, the chemistry that Fred Warner and that whole linebacker crew showed was critical, and I thought that was going to take them all the way. But the undoing was the QB at the end of the day. QB play is crucial, and as you say all the time, Kayla, Cleveland is in the same issue. QB play is the main issue. It wins you games. It gets you in those close quarter conversations. Matthew Stafford played the better game yesterday, and they ended up coming back up top.
And how did it feel to see OBJ playing to his potential, actually?
Honestly, I'm happy for the man. You can't hate on the man. He went past injury. He deserved it back when he played for the Giants. You know, he played like a running back role as a wide receiver when he played for the Giants. Man had like 18 receptions per game. When he was in his prime form, he was Hall of Fame condition. I believe he deserves to win this Super Bowl so he can go into the Hall of Fame, you know, with that ring on his finger, because he's honestly a great player.
Does it feel good to have his career completely
personality.
resuscitated right in front of you after being like lifeless, like all these things coming out in the media about his weird hobbies, fetishes? Does it feel like kind of weird to see him just become like this complete star player years later?
It's honestly.
Does it hurt a little bit?
It hurts a little bit.
I think it's something about being in Ohio. See what happened to Joe Burrow when he left too? Like, come on, you leave Ohio, you become a star.
Look, it's the coaching. It's the coaching and the philosophy in the offense. And the philosophy in the offense didn't give him primary demand. Also, having Cooper Kupp as your teammate and Robert Woods, it's definitely a positive, even though Robert Woods has been injured. But I think OBJ is in a great situation. He should re-sign there and keep on building on what's happening in LA right now. The Rams are a hot team.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for this Super Bowl, and next week we'll give you all of our predictions for sure. But this past Saturday, it was announced that the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, would retire after 22 seasons. But then it turns out he's not retiring. All the sports networks were spilling out posts in honor of his amazing career just for his agent to come out and say, Tom will be the only person to express his plans with complete accuracy. We've seen a lot of greats retire recently, and it would not be a complete surprise if Tom Brady did decide to retire. The man is already one of the oldest quarterbacks to ever play. So Jeff or Kellie, do you think this is the end of his career?
Can we first of all say you just said a lot of greats have retired recently? If you're talking about Ben Roethlisberger, please don't
No. I was thinking like Drew Brees, Peyton Manning. I'm thinking over a span.
Like again.
I didn't include him.
I was thinking you meant like really recently.
No.
Kayla. I'm so sorry, I lost my train of thought. Is his career over? No, it's Tom Brady. Okay, here's the thing. When I first saw the news, I was like, there's no way, this man's not going out on a losing season. Also, something to be considered about is that $15 million from his signing bonus is not going to hit his account until after February 4th. Why would you leave or tell people you're leaving before that? That's $15 million. So I don't see him leaving. I don't see him giving up. I think he loves Tampa. I think he loves his team. I see him coming back. I think he wants another ring. I think he wants all 8 fingers.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I think he could come back. I think it wouldn't be bad, though, if he were to end it now. But that is all the time we have for this segment. When we come back, we will be joined by Kayla Lewis to talk MLB. Thank you so much, Jeff.
He's coming back! We're gonna need no way! Welcome to the HTF Hot Wings Challenge. One of you guys actually do hot sauce like regularly?
No. It's like the least black thing I do.
Oh, wow, okay.
I say Johnny goes first on this one.
I agree.
Now the Buccaneers are gonna play the Washington football team.
That can't happen.
It'll happen!
I'm terrified.
No, I really hate it.
No!
Yes.
No!
Yes.
No!
Yes. No. You're wrong. If it wasn't for Kanye jumping up on stage and doing that, I'm gonna let you finish, but no one would know Taylor Swift.
Nitro's dump truck. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
Why is Nitro thick?
I don't know how many squats I need to do to get up like something like that, but I will do it.
Oh! Oh my God!
Baseball, obvious reasons. Babe Ruth, if you want to go currently. I feel like that's just like a thing.
He jumped off the wall to catch the home run. We made it through all the way to the end. Thank you for joining us.
I'm never doing this again.
While there is still no answer as to when or if baseball will return this season, we saw some action in the world of baseball this past week with the MLB Hall of Fame elections. After his first time ever even being on the ballot, former Red Sox player David Ortiz, or as some may know him as Big Papi, has officially been elected to the Hall of Fame. He is a 3-time World Series champion, has hit over 500 home runs in his career, was a 10-time MLB All-Star, and so much more. Kayla Lewis, what did you think when you found out David Ortiz was elected to the Hall of Fame?
I was surprised, honestly. You know, it was his first year on the ballot, but at the end of the day, he had all the right qualifications. He had 541 home runs, over 1,700 runs batted in, a 286 batting average. I mean, he has everything there. So I'm not that surprised, but at the same time, it is surprising because it was his first year on the ballot.
Yeah, he's just one of those players, though, that you can't help but love. I remember when I went to Fenway, I think in 2016 or whenever, like a year or two before he retired, it was just amazing the way the crowd just embraces him in Boston. He is their biggest celebrity of baseball, obviously. But yeah, no, it was an electric crowd. It was an electric crowd. It was so exciting to watch a game with him in it, and it's truly a well-deserved honor for him to be in the Hall of Fame. And if you look at the ballot, he deserved to go in right away when you looked at the other members, unless you wanted to put in the people that deserved to be put in. So let me move on to that. There were a few members that were once again snubbed from getting the Hall of Fame honor. But I want to talk about one in particular, Barry Bonds. Bonds is easily one of the best MLB players to ever live, if not the best. He holds the record for most career home runs, most home runs in a single season, most MVP wins, and much more. The man was simply unreal and still unmatched in the MLB. He's been denied entry into the Hall of Fame over the years for testing positive for performance enhancement drugs in the early 2000s. In my opinion, the decision to once again exclude him is absurd. Of all professional sports, MLB tends to pride themselves the most on preserving history, as they say, but won't put one of baseball's most important players in history in the Hall of Fame. An article on ESPN written by Jeff Laux stated, "His greed mirrored the league's, the ceaseless pursuit of bigger, better, more. This is the history that demands to be told, and there is no better place to tell it than in the plaque room at the Hall of Fame." Now, Kelly, do you think Barry Bonds and other players with similar stories like Roger Clemens deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, or do you think they don't belong?
Well, as I was talking to you guys this morning, you were telling me the issue with their hesitancy to put them into the Hall of Fame was because they tested positive for PEDs back in the early 2000s. And here's the thing. It was the early 2000s. I feel like a lot of players would have tested positive for PED, and that was just the time. You could have found traces of things. You could have had a messed up test. I also think that some players are more likely to be tested more than other players for certain reasons. And it's kind of ridiculous. You need to look at how he played the game, and you need to look at how successful he was and honor him in that way. If you're telling me he was on PEDs his entire career, maybe then I'd be like, oh yeah, that's bad. Or even maybe just for a season, oh yeah, that's terrible. But I don't think that the man was like doing that for his entire career.
No, he wasn't. If you look at his stats from when he was on the Pittsburgh Pirates, they're just as good as his career stats. So he deserves to be in all the way around. Kayla Lewis, what do you think?
I'm going to take a different route here. I don't think he should be in the Hall of Fame. You know, performance enhancement drugs, he was tested positive in 2000. And I think
Kayla,
it was
were
on
you
a
alive in 2000?
government test, but I think, he never tested positive under the MLB. But if you look at the stats, he had some of his best seasons. He had like 73 home runs, his best season after he so-called tested positive. He does deny it to this day, but even his trainer said that he injected him with steroids. So he's going to deny it, but his trainer's saying he didn't. So yes, he performed well, but I don't think he should be in the Hall of Fame because if his drugs did enhance his performance, I don't think he should be in there. And on the other hand, going back to David Ortiz, he also was accused of having a positive test. But in 2016, Rob Manfred spoke about it and said that you could not tell if it was prescription drugs or not, and he never tested positive under the MLB. So some also agree that David Ortiz shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. So it's just a really big debate there.
I'm telling you, I could take all the performance-enhancing drugs in the world every single day for the rest of my life, and I'm not getting close to the Hall of Fame in baseball.
That is exactly what I was going to say. Performance enhancement drugs does not give you talent in baseball. That's like saying I could all of a sudden start singing if I took something. It doesn't work like that. It does give you maybe a little more power, a little more speed, maybe, but he was still just a phenomenal baseball player.
And that's maybe, and this is probably traces of something he was,
No, yeah, absolutely. To put it in perspective, take a look at D. Gordon, who was suspended, I think, 80 games a few years ago for taking performance enhancement drugs. And he wasn't, he's not still in the MLB. You don't really hear about him anymore because it didn't make him a phenomenal baseball player. That just doesn't happen. Barry Bonds was just phenomenal in every which way. He was the best 5-tool player ever in baseball, and he deserves to be in there. If baseball is so determined to separate these players from that Hall of Fame, then why not put an asterisk on the whole era? As I stated before, it's part of baseball history that can't be erased. You can't erase the World Series titles of that time. You can't erase the MVP awards won. And players like Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens just deserve a plaque at the Hall of Fame.
And if we really think about it, if we went back even further than 2000, because baseball's been going on for hundreds of years, go back further. Tell me in the 70s that these people weren't doing a bunch of non-performance enhancing drugs and still playing the game. And they're probably in the Hall of Fame now. So it's not really, I don't know. I don't want to say it's not fair. Times are different, obviously,
yeah, Willie Mays took amphetamines, so.
But, yeah.
I don't know. I still think he wouldn't have hit as well if he didn't do the drugs. I mean, like I said, his best seasons came after it, so.
I wouldn't say it's doing the drugs. I would say it's traces of things picked up that aren't allowed to be in his system.
Right. Again, I just don't think it could. Again, look at his stats in the Pittsburgh Pirates before that was even a question. He deserves to be in on that. He was a phenomenal player, and I just don't think, it's just so silly to me because you're thinking about all these records he broke, most home runs in a single season. The only one who got close was Giancarlo Stanton back in, 2017? And it was still about 13 home run difference. He's on the top of the list for all of these records, and it's not in the Hall of Fame. It doesn't make sense to me. Again, if you really want to, make them stick out, put a little asterisk next to their name and make that the thing for the steroid era. Everyone who was supposedly whatever, that's the deal. You can talk about it, but it deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
It was also his last year to get elected, correct, as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so that stinks because it's never going to be something he's going to be able to obtain.
Well, he can get in. Like, there's a Today's Game committee. They meet in December, and Ortiz said he is going to try and, make a case for them because he also believes he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Yeah, I think you saw when it was happening, you saw sports Twitter come to life. Mahomes, I believe, said something.
I saw more about that man than I have seen.
Right,
ever.
Exactly. Because people think it's just so silly to me that he's not even in the question to go in. I don't know. It really bothers me. I think he deserves to be in there. Roger Clemens deserves to be in there. If you make your mark on baseball, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. So why change the rules now?
I agree. Anyways, unsurprisingly, there are still no decisions made between the MLB and the MLBPA. As spring training gets closer and closer, Kayla Lewis, do you think they'll come to an agreement in time to start the season?
I don't think so. They're not agreeing on the bigger financial issues. They have, there's an arbitration pool and the players want something like $105 million or something, and the MLB's only offering $10 million. So that just shows how far apart. And Dan Halem from the MLB has spoke and said that they are willing to sacrifice regular season games. So I don't think so. They're not getting close.
What happened to this being America's favorite pastime? Do they just not care about anyone? Well, obviously they're reflecting that they don't care about the people who want to come out and watch and give them more money. This is just ridiculous to me. I feel like if you have, these players are already most of them multi-millionaires, make a lot of money. And if they have the money to continue giving it to them, I don't know. Kayla, what's your opinion?
It's all money at the end of the day, and it's frustrating. There are complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Literally could not be more opposite, and neither of them are willing to budge. And there's things on certain sides that make sense, but at some point you have to come to a compromise. We already lost a season not so long ago due to COVID, and we're going to lose one to this. Even if they did figure it out right now, we're already on a crunch time. They have a lot to do before they could even start spring training. one of them being getting visas for some of their players that don't live in the United States. So they have a lot to take care of, and they're just running out of time. So it makes me nervous because I don't see either side willing to budge, and clearly
it kind of seems like they don't care and like could care less, and like they're not in a rush to solve the issue at all. I mean, Kayla Lewis, how do you feel? Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I feel the same way. There's also, if they don't make an agreement by like March 1st, I think it is, then regular season games are definitely in jeopardy. They also have to, when they make a decision, there's still so many free agents out there they have to sign. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes me nervous. I think they have a lot of work to do. Rob Manfred, I have my opinions about him, but they need to do something, like egos aside for 1 second and figure it out. But that's the sports business world sometimes. It's not all fun and games. It's not passionate about sports in the way that you would think. It's greedy, it's money, and it sucks. But going back, you talking about free agents, I know you were telling me last night about Freddie Freeman and how you want him to get picked up. So what do you think will happen if it does come back this season?
Well, Freddie Freeman, he was a star on the Braves. They weren't offering him, so I've heard, they weren't offering him what he wanted, so that's why he did not sign. I know, the Dodgers want him. There's a lot of people that are, going for him, and I really want him to stay, and that's why I really want this lockout to be over. I want to know where he's going to go, and I just hope he ends up with the Braves.
Well, there's a lot to be anticipated about this baseball season, and Kayla, we appreciate you all being on so much, talking to us about MLB with our other baseball girly, Kayla. But Kayla, it's time to move on to one of our favorite news segments of the week, our Woman of the Week. And why do one when I can do an entire dance team? The Louisiana State University Tigers girls dance team earned the top spot at the 2022 UDA College Nationals competition. And their award-winning performance has gone viral on social media and even has prompted a TikTok challenge as well. Earlier this month, the Tiger Girls claimed the first place in the D1A hip-hop competition, which was held at the ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex in Orlando, Florida. I even got to attend the last day of the competition myself, and wow. The reason this year's routine was so popular, because they had to miss out on nationals in 2021, after missing out on them in 2022 because of COVID. And after a Change.org petition that garnered over 27,000 signatures said it was due to a lack of athletic trainers available for our competition season. LSU as a university has not commented regarding the team not participating in the 2021 competition. The assistant coach said the team performed to Sierra's Like a Boy, which was curated and choreographed specifically for this team and all other female athletes who have been neglected in relation to their male counterparts. The choreographers, Carson Rowe and Sammy McFadden, were passionate about creating this routine and for the positive message behind the empowerment of female athletes in the dance industry, as well as for the recognition of dance as a collegiate sport with deserving student athletes who deserve the same treatment from the university as all the other larger sports. We can't look past these women and not call them athletes because they're putting in the hours, they're putting in the work, and then they're going to these competitions and winning them. Everyone loves them, they're loved on social media, and I think this is such a positive movement because so many women can understand and relate with this. They don't get enough clothes, they don't get warm weather clothes, they don't get money. People don't show up to their games because they're not promoted. So I loved this. I think they did a fantastic job. The whole entire auditorium was cheering for them because they knew it was coming and were so moved by the message of their dance. So congrats to the LSU girls Tigers all-girl dance team and their hip-hop routine for winning nationals, as they absolutely should.
Yeah, they well-deserved, but that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Kayla Lewis. Thank you so much, Jeff Laux, for another great show, and we'll be back next week.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I